Hi, Steve. Welcome to Goalie Talk. How are you?
Good, thanks, mate. Yep, can't complain.
You good? How's life in Switzerland?
Yeah, all good. We had some snow on Christmas Day, so that was a nice little treat. But otherwise, yeah, all good, thanks.
We've got a little bit of snow here, but not where I'm living. There's a little bit further over west, which I'm a bit jealous of. I quite like a bit of snow, but no, it's all good. Merry Christmas and all that. Hope you had a good one. Looking forward to talking to you on the pod about all things sort of international hockey, a little bit of a bio about you and where you've come from, what you're doing at the moment. I think people would be interested to hear what you've done and how you do it in a way, and a little bit more about where you see international hockey, but also juniors coming through. Be cool to talk about that a little bit more. And then probably a little bit of a conversation around the future of goalkeeping and maybe a little bit of a view on the Olympics this year and sort of how you see things at the moment.
Sure.
But just a little bit sort of anecdote for those that are listening. Steve was my coach. I was very lucky to have Steve as one of my coaches sort of through the age groups and under 21s. And that's sort of where I finished my junior international career in international hockey, but Steve was a significant contact and trainer during that time, and lucky to have him on board with Fortitude as well. So it's good to have you finally on the pod, because we were hoping to do this a little bit earlier.
It's been a while, hey? Yeah. About it, so.
Steve prided himself on hitting one-handed backhands every session. Yeah,
I still think that's a hidden skill in the game that they haven't explored well enough yet. So
I agree, because I'm pretty sure you scored more than I saved.
Most, I think.
Is it left hand?
Yeah, left hand.
Left hand.
It helps being left-handed.
But you play tennis, though.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So I think that helps.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Exactly. No, well, Steve, great to have you on, mate. For those that don't know too much about you, take us through sort of a brief bio of your hockey and your coaching.
Sure. So, I mean, I stumbled across hockey back when I was about 9, back in the days of playing on grass, and being rolled out in steel toe cap kickers. I had a face mask that you'd basically be able to, it wasn't even a helmet, it was one of those ones that you could pull and then snap back on your face, which my friends like to do regularly. We had gardening gloves as gloves, but that's kind of when I started. Basically just fell in love with the game, really, and then continued to play, continued to train, and eventually got an opportunity to go to the England 16 trials. So I went there. Got invited back again, so then was starting to have some success, and then carried on through basically till 21. But at that point, unfortunately, I was actually getting injured quite a lot, and it became apparent really that physically I probably wasn't going to be able to sustain the requirements of international hockey. So decided at that point basically just to get involved in coaching, which I absolutely love, and I actually loved it even more than playing, to be honest, because partly it meant I didn't have to do any bleep tests again, which was always good. No, I just love the thinking side of the game, and really trying to sort of work out how to improve techniques, and that all stemmed from the fact that I was never really coached, so I didn't have a goalkeeper coach really, so I was always trying to work it out on my own through physical feedback and feeling. And then basically really got into the coaching game, started doing the regional coaching, and then started developing that into and getting opportunities to work with England juniors. And then after England juniors, I then got into GB and was involved in a little bit around the 2008 Olympics with Ali McGregor outside of the GB setup. But then 2012 with Beth Story, Maddie, Abby Walker, Kirsty Mackay, Becky Duggan, those girls. So there was a lot of them running into that 2012 Olympics. And then after 2012, then went over to Belgium which even though I'm sitting here in Switzerland, I do still coach the Belgian goalkeepers with the likes of Vinnie Van Asch, Louis Van Doren, and the young lad Simon van den Broek coming through now as well. So, yeah, these are the guys that I'm now involved with. So, I've coached all the way from the little 3-foot munchkins who are just starting out, who I love coaching. I always learn stuff off them, believe it or not, all the way up to the best of the best. So it's been a great journey. Yeah.
That's great. I've got two things in my mind. So one thing, you're sort of self-taught in a way, and that I find really interesting because there aren't that many, if any, proper avenues for a goalkeeper coach, hockey-wise, to go through, whether that's through your national governing body, wherever you are. I don't think there is enough for people to latch onto to improve their goalkeeper coaching. What was the? I mean, I'd say that very generally. I think there's definitely some work to be done. But what's trial and error is one thing. I mean, I definitely do it all the time. And like you say, you learn. You've got to be open to learn from other people. But is there anything specifically within that helped you sort of upskill yourself, or was it just the fact that you were very open to try new things?
It makes it sound really simple, but one of the key things when I was like starting off my coaching was I saw it as a game of spot the difference. So my philosophy was goalkeeping is symmetrical in many ways, both left and right side. Yeah, there are some obvious differences, but the majority of the things, lunging, etc., are kind of similar. So therefore, basically, when I was playing, I would do it based on feeling and think, does that feel the same on the right as it does on the left? If it doesn't, where's the difference? But then from a coaching perspective, I was then watching. So then I was like, what looks different? Which one looks better? Why is it better? Right, now let's apply it to the other side. So it was a game of spot the difference.
And with that in mind, spot the difference. So when you went over to Belgium, what was one of the, because we all look at countries and how they play in different styles generally, and the goalkeepers normally have a slightly different style. I'd say a European style would be different from a Australian, New Zealand style, for example. And you probably say the same within some countries in Europe as well. But what was the biggest difference for you across the board with England,
Belgium
goalkeepers and Belgian goalkeepers?
Yeah, for me, I was super lucky. I still think I am lucky because Belgium at the time were getting into top 8, top 6 in the world. But they hadn't given a huge amount of attention to the goalkeeping program. So I basically got offered a blank piece of paper to go over and start fresh with a philosophy. And then, basically I was just looking around the world and basically going, okay, the Aussies do that really well. The Irish do that. Yeah, the Germans do this, the Dutch do that, the Spanish do this, the Argentinians do that. And then basically I try to bring it all together to basically try and create a hybrid of all of those styles, which I think we've done pretty well. I think there's still aspects of the Belgium style if you look at Vinny's game, but that was always going to be the case because I've been working with Vinny for 6 years now and he's in his 30s. So he wasn't a 16-year-old when I picked him up. He already had a lot of skills already developed. So it was a matter of not changing his game, but basically trying to enhance it by giving him other tool sets, along the way, basically. So.
Yeah, and it's a nice one because we've always spoken, sort of segue into the next part of what we want to talk about is briefly about Fortitude and our philosophy and how we see things. So, when it comes to coaching junior goalkeepers, like you're talking about spot the difference, but also playing to their strengths. Vinny had a certain set of skill sets, has a certain set of skill sets, and it's about enhancing that. And you've got to look at the individual and see where their opportunities are as well as maybe their limitations too. And unless you have a broad idea about all the different ways you could do something, it's very difficult to then point that person in the right direction, sort of what works for them. So having a huge toolbox of tricks and skills and coaching tools is really useful. And I think the hybrid element to it is really, really important. And so when we started Fortitude six years ago, I'm not going to talk about this. Yeah, long time ago now. And yes, it's basically a few pints in a pub. We ended up talking about it, and I was in a job I didn't enjoy. You were about to move over to Belgium, and we decided that setting up a goalkeeper coaching company was going to be a really good idea. And then we sort of spoke about the philosophy of it and where we actually want it to go. And I think it is where it is because of what you've drawn upon from the international part of it, what I've drawn upon from coaching lots of juniors as well as international goalkeepers as well, but also looking at being open-minded enough to look at other people, other ways of doing things. That's kind of where Fortitude is at the moment, especially.
No, I'd agree with that. And I think, obviously when we sat there that afternoon, evening, I had to look past those terrible salmon. I think it was the salmon shorts that did it. Some terrible shorts, Tom. But
you remember it badly only because it was a salmon-coloured top.
Was it? There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it was you shouldn't wear salmon. It's not good for your colour, Tom.
I had a lovely tan at the time, and I thought it was going to work.
Yeah. But no, I mean, hey, Fortitude's come on a long way now. We've obviously got a set up in Belgium that Glenn Farris is running as well. So you're doing a fantastic job there in the UK, and I know we've got a really good global following, and I know we've got some really exciting things planned for 2021 as well. Trying to increase the reach and give more people opportunities and upskilling coaches. So I think it's been a pretty good journey, all things considered, especially with recent times and pandemic. To still be going is credit to you. So.
Yeah, it's been like just touching on that. It has been a tough year, but I would say that actually the goalkeepers and friends of Fortitude that have been with us along the way and have been with us sort of almost since day one have really helped, and other of our collaborators as well. It's been much easier because of that, and we're still motoring, so that's good. But whilst we're talking about sort of junior hockey, it brings us on to sort of the next bit about what I want to talk with you about is obviously you're fundamentally coaching senior international hockey at the moment with a view through the pathway and overseeing all of that in Belgium as well. And I think it's something that is going to be really useful for our younger goalkeepers to latch onto. When I say younger goalkeepers, could be anything between 9 and 25, probably. It depends where you are in your sort of hockey career. But if those goalkeepers that are wanting to try to reach the highest level or as high as they possibly can, so junior international hockey all the way through to senior, like I think what are the traits that you would want to see, and what are the second part of it is where are the usual pitfalls and how can you sort of overcome them as best as possible?
Yeah, I think I mean the first thing to say is really you don't fully have a complete game, like in terms of all of your skill sets and things, really until you're around 27. Now you could be a little bit earlier, but it takes that length of time. And one of the things you have to remember goalkeeping wise is the reason it takes that amount of time is because there's so many different scenarios that you really need to experience all of those scenarios, and then you know what to do in each of those scenarios. So until you've experienced a lot of them, you don't really have that. So a young goalkeeper may only be 30% complete in a particular scenario, therefore they're going to make different decisions and make mistakes. But that's okay, like that's part of the journey. And I think you should remember that, because also when your teammates are being selected for England and things like this, even at 18, 19, it's really difficult for a young goalkeeper to really break in and be playing as number one at that age. There's not very many in history that have done that. So that's the first thing. You've got to recognise the length of time it takes. The thing that I look for with junior goalkeepers is really someone who, I'm not expecting them to have a complete game. I'm not expecting them to know everything. But what I look for is someone who's passionate, energetic, is wanting to learn and willing to learn. So they want to listen, and they want to try things. They want to have fun, because they're young. Like, this isn't about, your 9 till 5 day job. This is, you want to enjoy what you do. And I want to enjoy what I do as well. So, like, I want to have some fun. And really, I guess, in terms of sort of like physical attributes, for me, it's not about being super tall. It's not about being super short. It's about being agile, and it's about being fast, and it's about being explosive. And if you have those attributes, then you can really start to look at evolving your game. So if I had to pick out young goalkeepers, the things that I'm looking for, in summary, I guess, is someone who is athletic, who's good fun to be around, and is all right with making mistakes, and someone who you can see has the drive and the passion within themselves to get over the challenges that are definitely going to come. And like, if you've listened to the webinars with Maddie and Ali and Vinny that we did earlier this year, there's not a single one of them that hasn't had a setback or a moment where actually all three of those goalkeepers at one moment in their career thought they were going to stop. They were like, I don't know if I can continue with this. Is this for me? That says it all, right? Like, and then you've got three of the best in the world. Beth Story as well. They've all got challenges. Beth didn't actually get selected for England until she was in her last year of under 21s, and then went on 6 years later to be the best goalkeeper in the world.
Didn't that happen with? Well, didn't James Fair get picked up a little bit later? He was a bit later as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about just recognizing this is a journey, and it's a long journey, but it's got a lot of rewards. You're going to have setbacks, even if you don't get selected for England under 16 or for your regional Wessex Leopards or something like this. It doesn't mean that it's the end of the road. Actually, what you learn from that is actually to become stronger, and actually you get more takeaways than actually going to those tournaments. Because the end game, probably for most of the kids growing up, is to go and play in the Olympics. So if you think, right, I want to play in the Olympics, I'm willing not to play that tournament or this tournament, I might be injured or what have you. It doesn't really matter, as long as you've got your eye on the prize, if that's what it is, to try and play at that level. So.
Yeah, and I think, especially over here, we have a system where I think players play a lot, young players. You've got school hockey, club hockey, regional hockey, and whatever. If you're at a performance centre or an academy centre, there's three main areas where you're playing your hockey, and then if you do play national age group squad stuff, then you're off doing that for bits of the year as well. And as much fun as it is, there's lots of players in that in those squads. It's hugely competitive. It can be quite stressful for them as well, and maybe sometimes confusing with the different amount of coaches they have. But I think if I'm looking at and giving any advice to that is that use those and make sure you have some clarity of thought with what you're doing. And if you do sort of relate to one of those coaches more than the others, and that's probably the one you might want to draw upon more often. But definitely don't disregard anything anybody else says. It's normally quite a lot to take in, and normally quite a lot of hockey at the same time.
Yeah, agreed. I think another thing that I see quite a lot in junior goalkeepers and in their development is when they're training. So one of the things I always say to the junior keepers when they're training with me is, I really don't actually care if the ball goes in or not. We're training. Yeah, I'm going to hit in the next hour 150 hockey balls at you. I'm not expecting you to save all of them. In fact, I'll make sure you don't save all of them. So, but how they react to that is actually quite interesting, because sometimes, you see junior goalkeepers get super frustrated when they've let a ball in. And actually, the thing with that, and my key message there is, don't get frustrated about letting the ball in, because if you are, then you've missed that moment of actually reflecting on what you did wrong. Because you're screaming or hitting your stick against the post, you're losing that immediate feedback, which is the really valuable stuff of learning how not to make that mistake again. So that's one of the things I always try and just sort of get the guys. And I know that's difficult, Brian. Hey, I think we've all been there, hitting a stick around a post at a certain point in time. It happens, yeah. But it's just trying to reduce that and really focus on your training to become better. And that's one of the things that would definitely help.
Yeah, there's definitely some sort of autonomous learning side to that, and also just being inquisitive. Like having that thirst to go, okay, fine, I've got to put that emotional reaction to one side and go, okay, it doesn't matter because this is training. I need to learn from it and go, okay, what's the right question? What am I looking at? If I can't work out for myself, who can help? And normally it's the coach. And the coach is normally there to help and spot the difference and help with trying to improve that goalkeeper. I think the final thing I want to talk to you about, mate, is the I put it down as the future of goalkeeping, but I think it's probably too broader.
I thought that when you sent it over.
Hey?
I thought that when you sent it over, I was like,
yeah. Future goalkeeping, Steve, go. No, I think when we were speaking about it earlier before the podcast, we were talking about the Olympics. And the fact that things have been massively disrupted. The 4-year cycle has then been made into a 5-year cycle, and actually normally only, when you're talking of actual hockey terms, it's normally actually only a 3-year cycle. Now it's been made into a 4. You're looking at possible changes in staff or players and things like that, and potentially goalkeepers that were planning on not either going past Tokyo or not, and then there's another year, and all these sorts of things. What challenges does that pose for most countries, let alone Belgium, GB?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of athletes, hey, that basically prepare around Olympic cycles. It's the pinnacle tournament of our sport. So, there's people who are looking at the end of their careers who are thinking, another year, have I physically got that in me? This is tough training. There's other people who've had careers put on hold, teachers who've been given, a year or a year and a half just to be full time in hockey, and then actually that's now become 2.5 years. So, organisation and companies are having to be really flexible to the needs of these people. But I mean, in terms of our preparation, we've been a little bit fortunate in that we've been able to train in a bubble, more or less, back in Belgium. So the guys have been able to continue to train, which is quite good. But I think one of the things that we're going to see at the Olympics is probably, in the past, usually you see teams, athletes in their absolute peak condition and at the top of their game. That's what they're looking always to try and deliver at that tournament. I think this one I'm really interested to see whether they achieve that because of all the constraints, different countries having different constraints, access to gym, playing matches internationally, playing in front of a crowd, not in front of a crowd, all of these elements make it super difficult to, be able to perform at the best. So my gut feeling is it's actually going to be the teams that have dealt with that the best over this period that may not be performing at their absolute optimum, but it could still be enough to win a medal at the Olympics. So, but we shall see. It's going to be really interesting.
So, are you predicting a few upsets with potentially with some of the major teams?
Could be. I mean, it's so important to get games under your belt. to be match fit, and basically work on that. There's going to be teams that are rusty probably at the beginning, or certainly not going to have that normal amount of load that they would do going into, let's say, a normal Olympics. But I mean, next year, everybody's super hopeful. We've obviously got vaccine coming. Hopefully, the world's going to be in a much better place. I really hope. I think all of us do. I think we're all ready for it. So yeah, hopefully, it might give us a bit of time to get back to normal, get some games under our belts. We've got the Europeans, Pro League still going on. Yeah, we'll see how we are come the Olympics, but definitely looking forward to it, and fingers crossed it's actually going to go ahead.
Yeah, we also had a bit of a chat about kit. So goalkeeping kit has changed a lot since you were wearing your ice hockey mask and your gardening gloves.
Yes,
and I will admit I played 2 games, maybe 3 on grass. So I kind of understand where you're coming from, but I think kit, and you mentioned this earlier, like kit has been pretty similar. There's only been slight changes in the last 15 years. Like it's been fairly some. There's been some updates with the kit and just tweaks here and there, but do you see, like, at some stage that kit has got to just take another leap?
Yeah, I think so. It'll be interesting to see where it goes and which manufacturers look to take that opportunity. It might well be, as we see in banking, actually, like you get some, startups come in, like a Revolut, and just completely, change the way things are done. It could just be something like that, as completely new company starts up. But are there opportunities to evolve kit? For sure. Yeah, more bespoke, more agile, all of these things. I think it'd be quite exciting to see what you can actually really do with that. Costs is always one of the things that is the thing that stops the kit changing, because foam is actually very economical, and it's a good solution. So moving on to anything that's a little bit more technology advanced is going to cost. So it's always that balance as to how that comes in. But I think there's opportunity.
I think with a futuristic crystal ball, I've got like Iron Man in my head. When Iron Man like dresses up in his suit and he just presses the button, you're like, and you're in. I think that's it. Right. Okay. For all the goalkeeping hockey manufacturers out there, if you can get something like that, so that we don't, or firstly, coaches don't have to wait for half an hour for the goalkeepers to put their kit on. The goalkeepers could just like have something cool.
Yeah.
And it'll only be like a little thing. You just step on a little platform, and they have to carry around their bag everywhere, and it won't smell. It'll clean itself, and that sort of stuff. That would be great. So if you guys could get to that, brilliant.
There you go, Paris Olympics.
Yeah, I've been watching too many sort of sci-fi films, I think, over maybe.
It has been Christmas, so
yeah, quite. Cool, man. Right, we'll knock it on the head there, but I think it's been great chatting to you. We talk fairly regularly about goalkeeping, as the listeners can probably imagine, and I think we'll probably do a few more over the next few months to get into a little bit more detail about some other topics, certainly from an international point of view as well, and drawing on some of your experience as well, Steve. But thanks for joining me. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Christmas and Happy New Year when it comes around.
Yep, right back at you.
Cheers, Steve. Cheers. Bye.
Yeah.